Welcome back, Black Knight Scholars. Today, we're going to be talking about the Catholic Counter-Reformation. And for you, that means you need to get out your VidNotes packet that says Unit 2, Renaissance and Reform. And please turn to page 10 and 11 of this packet. We're going to be exploring how the Catholic Church strikes back against those Protestants who want it to change. So the main question we're going to be dealing with today is, how did the Catholic Church of the 1500s respond to the Protestant Reformation? And we're going to be using the acronym SINS. Give me an S, give me an I, give me an N, give me an S. We're going to be using this acronym to answer this question. One way the Catholic Church responded was this picture. The Catholic Church tortured those Protestants who would not express their guilt and say that they were doing wrong. Let's review. We have some Protestant reformers. We talked about Martin Luther and his 95 Theses, criticizing the Catholic Church in a very public way, and his supporting cast: John Calvin, who started a theocracy in Switzerland; King Henry VIII, who went against the Pope and divorced his first wife. He also broke away from the Catholic Church. Queen Elizabeth I, who tolerated both Protestants and Catholics within the Anglican Church of England. Jan Hus and John Wycliffe, who supported translating the Bible into their country's languages. And Johann Gutenberg, whose printing press printed the Bible in many different languages and increased literacy throughout Europe so that people could think for themselves about these religious matters. We also talked about how Christianity during this time splits. The Catholic Church have held a lot of the power, but during this time in the 1500s and the 1600s, the Protestant Church comes to being. Lutherans follow the beliefs of Martin Luther in northern Germany, and Calvinists practice Calvinism, the idea of predestination. They are strict in their belief, and many different forms of Calvinism take shape. The Puritans, who come to America, and they are the Pilgrims. The Huguenots in France and Presbyterians all follow the beliefs of John Calvin. And we can't forget the Church of England, established by King Henry VIII and Queen Elizabeth I. That becomes known as the Anglican Church. All of these are Protestant denominations of Christianity. All still exist today. All right, at first, church leaders ignore the Reformation. They think it's a phase that will go away, but it doesn't. We'll talk about that later. But first, the early stages of the Reformation in the 1500s see popes arrest and excommunicate heretics. Excommunicate means to kick out. So the popes kick out the outlaws who are Protestants. And these church leaders refuse to listen to the messages of Martin Luther and John Calvin and others who want the church to change. Pope Leo X is such a pope who refuses reform. He thinks these heretics are exceptions to the rule, and he believes they are just outlaws. He says this about Martin Luther and his followers: "Let Martin himself and all those adhering to him and all those who shelter and support him know that from our heart we beseech you to cease to disturb the peace, unity, and truth of the church." So Pope Leo X feels Martin Luther and others are just bothersome characters that will eventually fade away. That doesn't happen. One way the Catholic Church tries to stop Protestantism is using war. And one such war is actually a series of wars called the 30 Years' War in Germany. From 1618 to 1648, the Protestant princes in northern Germany, who practice the teachings of Martin Luther, go up against the Catholics in southern Germany. Who are these Catholics? Well, they are ruled by a family called the Habsburgs, and they rule the entire Holy Roman Empire at this time. This is Holy Roman Emperor Ferdinand, and Ferdinand closes all the Protestant churches in southern Germany. And the North German princes don't like this. War ensues. What's the end result? It's the Peace of Westphalia in 1648. All areas of Germany could now practice whatever form of Christianity they wanted. But that peace was the result of many, many years of hard fighting. 1/3 of the German population died during the 30 Years' War. This list shows you how devastating the 30 Years' War was. 3 million people died during this conflict. Not quite as much as the 70 million in World War II, but the 30 Years' War nevertheless makes the list of the deadliest conflicts in the history of the planet. Another character enters the 30 Years' War that we need to mention. His name is French Cardinal Richelieu. Cardinal means that he is a leader of the Catholic Church, and he is an example of a religious leader who has become a politician. Religion and politics, should they mix? He says yes. Cardinal Richelieu is Catholic, but convinces France's leaders to support the Protestants in this North German versus Catholic war. Why? Why do such a thing? France feels threatened by the Holy Roman Empire, so they want the North German princes on their side. Another religious war during the Reformation was the French Wars of Religion from 1562 to 1598. Who fought? The Catholics and the Huguenots, those in France who supported John Calvin. Why did they fight? Well, the Huguenots wanted equal rights. And there's the leader of France at the time, Henri IV. So the French Wars of Religion, how did it all start? The Massacre of Vassy. This is a picture of that massacre. You see people are fleeing. They are climbing walls. In 1562, in a town called Vassy, France, a group of Huguenots were worshiping their Calvinist beliefs in a barn. A local Catholic duke walks by and sees this meeting. He then locks the barn doors and sets the barn on fire, which kills 30 Huguenots and injures hundreds of others who are worshiping. This event sparks the French Wars of Religion, and wars and battles ensue for more than 30 years. After all of this fighting, what happens? Well, there is a peace. It's called the Edict of Nantes, and it's the first major religious freedom law, saying that the Huguenots can practice their religion in France without persecution. The Inquisition was another way the Catholic Church tries to strike back against the Protestants. The Inquisition was when the Catholic Church establishes a court system in each town in Europe to arrest, put on trial, and punish Protestant heretics, those outlaws. So, you're a heretic, you're arrested, you have options. What's one option? You can admit your guilt to the Catholic Church and give names of other heretics who are criticizing the church, and you would be released or face a light torture or prison sentence. You wouldn't be put to death. And here is a man being tortured by members of the Catholic Church because of his heretical ways.